The Titans' plan to protect Sebastian fails, and Mother Mayhem's attack on Connor changes his personality. Hello, entertainment enthusiasts. This is Ray, and this is the Fandom Realm. And today I'm going to be reviewing Episode 5 and Episode 6 of Season 4 of Titans. Now, just to let you know, this is a spoiler review, so keep that in mind. Now, I do just want to point out Episode 5 and 6, those were the last two episodes of this part of the season of Titans. I actually wasn't aware of this until I sat down to do this video. So once the second half of the season comes out, we will go back to reviewing Titans. So this is going to be a double recap and review, so I'm going to do both episodes in order. So Episode 5 starts out with Rachel and Sebastian getting to know each other. They are inside the silo for defensive purposes, while the rest of the team is observing Star Labs to make sure they're not caught off guard by Mother Mayhem. They have video monitors that they're just sort of sitting and watching, not getting much done. Tim and Bernard are observing the security cameras while Connor is patrolling the halls. The team is unaware that Connor is suffering effects from his stab wound from Mother Mayhem earlier. Of course, he is not wanting to tell anyone about this because he has this hang up about the magic and what he was told in earlier episodes about Superman having issues with magic, so he's not telling anybody. Mother Mayhem is going to assure her followers that Sebastian will rise before the blood moon passes. The snake that Connor coughed out is fully formed and it's going to be slithering through the halls. It's a really big snake. Tim and Bernard see it on camera and they're going to go look for it. However, they're going to realize that they have bitten off a little more than they can chew, and they are going to retreat. Moving on, Dick tells everyone that they're going to split up and search for the snake so that Jinx can use her magic to take care of it. Connor runs into the snake and it possesses him, and no one realizes it. He goes into the silo and tells Rachel that he's there to replace her so that she can take a break. So Dick and Corey are walking through the hallways. They're going to run into Rachel, who has come out to an area that has like a snack machine, and they're going to question why she is there. She's going to tell him, and they start to worry. Gar tells Jinx about the tree with the bones that spoke to him, and she tells him that it's a place called the Red, and he should go along for the ride instead of overthinking it. Connor tells Sebastian that he is found somewhere outside, which is going to be safer, but then reveals that he's been possessed. Dick and Corey show up just in time, and he's going to attack them, but he is knocked out by Jinx, who sneaks up behind him and uses her magic. They restrain Connor while Corey and Rachel take Sebastian somewhere else. They find out that there's an Elko diner in Metropolis, so they head straight to it. Corey's going to press some buttons on the jukebox at the diner, and the place empties, and they find Zadira waiting for them. May is unable to sense Sebastian, and she is informed that they found him in a place that none of them can go. May tries to contact Trigon for help because she has no other option. Of course, that diner is under protection since Zadira is there now. Connor is restrained in kryptonite shackles as they try to figure out how to cure him. They find that the snake is in his belly, and Jinx suggests that they need to do some type of magical expulsion using blue ash, but she doesn't know how to get it into the snake, and of course it's under Connor's impenetrable skin. Okay, next scene up, Zadira tells Corey that it is her destiny to kill Sebastian rather than try to help keep him alive because there is no stopping May from getting to her son. Corey is going to have the opportunity to kill Sebastian, but she refuses to give into it, and she assures Sebastian that she will not kill him and orders Zadira to leave. Gar and Bernard come up with a plan that could help Connor. Gar will turn into a virus and carry the blue ash inside Connor's body, specifically to attack the snake. And the team is going to debate whether or not to do this. Of course, Dick thinks it's very important, and in the end, they're going to decide to do it, and Gar turns into the virus and is injected into Connor's body. He's going to end up doing his job, and the snake slithers out of Connor, and just before it attacks Bernard, Bernard, Tim's going to strike it down with his staff. Now back to the diner right after Dara leaves. Mother Mayhem shows up, of course that's May, and attacks them. She threatens to kill Corey, but Sebastian stops her and agrees to go with her as long as she spares them. Connor is recovering, and Gar turns back into his human form thanks to some science magic by Bernard. This is where we're now going to finally see Bernard and Tim kiss. Tim comes in, and earlier Bernard had told him that his time would come. Of course, Bernard was talking about his time with the Titans because Tim, during that time period when they were doing all of the watching on the video, was sort of pouting about not getting to go out and get action. And so Tim actually comes in, gives Bernard a kiss. He actually told him that he was right, that he would get his chance and that he was taking it. And of course, Tim was meaning moving in and kissing Bernard. Now to end this episode, Sebastian is back at the temple and is introduced to the others by Mother Mayhem, and everyone's going to chant his name, Brother Blood. Now moving on to episode number 6. Of course, this is the last episode of the first half of the season, and we're going to move into basically the team is trying to figure out how to get Sebastian back, and we're going to see Connor undergoing a change in attitude. We're going to open up in the bathroom, and Connor looks at himself in the mirror and makes sure he's got his powers back. Corey and Rachel head back to Star Labs while wondering what they're going to tell the others about Sebastian and losing him. Rachel says she saw the same vision that Corey did at the diner of their future. And of course, part of that future was that Dick and Corey had a daughter. Sebastian is in pain because he's refusing to take part in the Blood Moon ritual, and Mother Mayhem is trying to convince him to do that. She's actually going to have him flash back and remember parts of his life to eventually convince him of what he has to do. Rachel and Corey finally get back to Star Labs, and they're going to tell everyone that Mother Mayhem now has Sebastian, so they're going to be trying to figure out what to do next as Connor enters the room, and he has a shaved head and a rude disposition. Now, a little earlier, we were actually shown when he was looking at himself in the mirror, he used his heat vision, his laser vision, to basically cut all of his hair off and make his head bald. So he actually looked more like Lex Luthor than Connor Kent. So he's sort of made a transition to being a Luthor and not a Kent for this episode. Gar is also struggling because of the visions that he is having. Lots of things are bothering him. He's eventually going to get a weird vision and doesn't really know what it means. There was something about when the temple falls moving right or something like that. I don't remember it right off the top of my head. But he's still having these visions and he doesn't know what they mean. As we move into the planning of trying to get Sebastian back, Connor wants to find May and kill her, and he wants to kill Sebastian too, to be quite honest. That's the only way in Connor's view at this point. Everything's going to be safe. And of course, Dick is going to disagree with him and tell him that they don't murder people. Mother Mayhem tells Sebastian that taking part in the ritual will be a good thing, as he'll be fighting back against all the times he's been wronged in life for being stronger or smarter than others. And she's going to show him some of those different moments from his past. Now, this is going to happen in several waves. The first one was when he was a kid going into foster care and he had his room taken away. The second one was when he was in school and a teacher basically didn't give him credit for something he came up with when they were talking about, I think it was maybe a physics class or chemistry class, math class, something where he wanted to take a shortcut to get the answer. The teacher basically wanted him to go the long way around. Now, the plan that Connor's going to come up with in order to help stop Mother Mayhem is taking charge of all the satellites of Luthor Corps, and basically he's going to give orders to Bernard and the other employees to use those satellites to direct the sunlight and reflect the sunlight satellite onto the moon, and that would get rid of the blood moon effect and hopefully stop Mother Mayhem. Now, with all this going on, we really see a completely different side of Connor in all of this. He is really being almost a dirtbag when Dick and the rest of the crew are dealing with him. He's being rude to the employees. He is spouting off at the mouth. Really not something that we are used to seeing from Connor. Jinx is actually going to come up with an idea to get Sebastian out of the temple without a direct face-off. She says that there's an ancient spell that could transport Sebastian to them, but it would need the help of science as well. They begin exploring that viability of the plan, and Jinx also discusses the possibility that she can help Rachel get her powers back, or at least give her the opportunity to get her powers back. Dick's going to be called back by Bernard as he watches Connor's plan be successful, or at least for the time being. May and her followers are worried because the red moon seems to have ended, but she tells her right hand to hack into the Luther mainframe because she knows who is responsible. Now, Gar's visions are still coming. They're very strong. He's going to go for a walk, and during that walk, he encounters a strange man who tells him that the animals are trying to speak to him and that he should listen. And this is actually where I mentioned earlier, Gar is told that when he sees the temple split, he must go to the red. And of course, at this point, we have no clue what they're talking about. Connor is still putting down other members of the team. Dick tries to talk to him, and he's told not to get complacent. Connor is going to ask to check to see if they've been hacked recently, and they find out that they have. Now, the good thing for the Titans is that the hack actually means they can trace it and get a location on the temple. The bad thing is they're going to be able to stop the satellites from stopping the red moon. Now, with all the visions that Mother Mayhem has shown Sebastian, he is convinced that he's constantly being overlooked, and by taking part in the ritual, he'll finally take his final form and get the power he truly deserves. Connor rushes to the temple without the rest of the Titans and kills Mother Mayhem with his heat vision, but it turns out she was only an illusion, and he's going to end up being captured. Rachel, Corey, and Jinx begin the ritual they're going to use to get Sebastian. When Rachel sees that Connor is chained up, she's going to stop. They find the location of the temple themselves and decide to go there and bring Connor and Sebastian back. They arrive and take control of the situation. Rachel's finally going to get her powers back, and they ask Sebastian to come with them. Now, one of the things in here that's going to happen too is they were actually contemplating teleporting into the temple, and that's what they were basically wanting to do, and the magic that Jinx was helping them come up with, and they were adding some science to it because things had changed. Jinx had said that the ancient magic could transport you, but what happened after that was nobody knew. And they figure out with science what early magic wielders didn't know is that the Earth basically rotated and it changed its movement in space. It wasn't fixed. And so that was the problem. So they had a supercomputer that could now fix that. Now, Jinx is going to freeze Mother Mayhem with her magic, but she apparently didn't freeze completely, and she's going to end up stabbing Jinx with her staff. Sebastian says that he's not leaving and drinks the blood, and he's going to scream out loud, and it sort of reverberates, and that's going to cause the walls to begin to collapse. Now, at that point, Gar chooses the red, and he and his team are transported from the temple, and we don't really know where they went at this point. Sebastian is going to submerge into the pool of blood, and Mother Mayhem eagerly awaits his reemergence as Brother Blood. With that, episode 6 comes to a close on a big cliffhanger. Now that I'm finished with the recap of episodes 5 and 6, I do want to put some thoughts and reactions out there. And I do have a few of those. And so the first thing is this storyline having to do with Connor and magic and Superman, and how that magic may be the biggest threat that Superman faces, and of course of Connor faces. I think it is interesting how they have built this up throughout the season, going back to the very beginning of the season with Connor wanting to meet Superman, and then Superman leaving for some reason, and then Jinx brings in this idea about Superman's biggest weakness being magic, and that might be why he went on this other mission instead of staying to help Connor. I think with the addition of Lex Luthor in this season at the very first, I think we probably should have seen some type of change coming for Connor in this season, because he actually got to talk to Lex Luthor. He's never gotten to talk to Superman. And so I'm going to be very interested to see if they swing that pendulum back to the other side, and by the end of season 4, if they have him turning back to the good side. And this whole idea of magic being something that Superman has a big weakness to, I think that's a very big establishment in the entire DC universe, because everyone can't just have kryptonite and be able to control him with that. There's got to be something that people have in the universe that is going to keep him from being all powerful. And I think this is definitely establishing magic as that control that people need for Superman. Now, second thing I want to talk about is Gar and what's going on with Gar so far. Now, one of my big issues with Gar throughout the first 3 seasons has been how he's almost been a useless character. They have not used him for really anything. All he's been able to turn into has been a tiger. So actually, I'm very glad they have tried to quickly expand his powers. I know some people are probably not going to like that. It does seem rushed. It seems rushed to me. But I'll be honest, I thought taking as long as they have to develop that power was wasting a great character. And so, we've already gotten to see him turn into now a virus. At the end, we get to see him turn into a gorilla, and that's just going to keep happening, and he's going to keep growing with the number of things he can turn into. And so I'm really interested to see how that is going to grow and expand through the second half of the season. Now, this is something I'm not going to mark this season down on, because I think it's actually correcting a problem from the first 3 seasons. And of course, turning into the virus was brilliant. I thought that was very creative. One way around Superman's impenetrable skin and superpowers is to not go through his skin to be able to heal him. So I thought that was a good idea. I thought that was clever. Now, those were a couple of ideas and thoughts that are just more general, and they're very positive. I do want to talk about a few things that I've got some issues with, and some of it, I'll be honest, is issues with like superhero shows in general. But the first big thing here, and this is probably the biggest of all these issues I'm going to talk about, is this idea in superhero trope movies, series, whatever you're watching, that at some point the good guys have the opportunity to get rid of the threat, but they're too good and they allow the threat to remain. And that's going to cause many, many, many people to end up dying because they refuse to end the threat. I'm going to be honest. This was a big issue in the Henry Cavill Superman movies when he killed Zod. People were aghast that Superman would kill the bad guy because we never really got to see him do that in movies before. And I feel like that's something they have continued here, because now you have Dick telling Connor, we don't murder people. It's not really murdering people when you're trying to stop the bad guy who's going to go on a genocidal mission to wipe people out, in my opinion, but they're not going to murder people. Also, Corey has the opportunity basically to go in and kill Sebastian in the diner and end what Mother Mayhem is trying to do. But with that, she chooses not to. They are the heroes. And I just want to get over this idea of heroes can only be heroes if they're not killing the bad guys. I don't like this idea that you had this chance to get rid of them, but now you're sacrificing many, many, many more lives. Okay, that's sort of a big thematic issue I have, not really just with Titans, but also with all of superhero culture. Now, just a few things, smaller items, character waste. I do not like the way they've used Dick this season, especially the last few episodes. He has basically been sidelined. After the first couple episodes, he took a very prominent role, but now he's just sort of demoted to saying, oh, let's not murder people. And that's not what I want to see from Dick Grayson or Nightwing. I want to see Nightwing out there fighting people. That's what he's supposed to be doing. And so I really think they have not used his character really well this season. I don't know what the issue is. And then the other character not being used is, of course, Jinx. They went and found her to use her magic to help out, and she basically hasn't done anything, and she ended up getting herself stabbed. She did have one good idea in trying to transport them to the temple to rescue Sebastian, but other than that, I mean, really, what has she done in the entire series since she's been introduced? I like the idea of having the character there. Now, she has been a little bit of control for Connor because she's able to use her magic on him, and so when he was going mad because of the snake being inside of him and having gotten stabbed by Mother Mayhem, she was useful there, but I just think they could have done more with her so far. And just the last little thing, and it's a positive, I guess, is they've been foreshadowing since Tim Drake first came to Star Labs that there's going to be some type of relationship between him and Bernard, and of course that is finally brought to fruition in this episode when they do kiss, and I thought they ended up pulling that off in a very clever way, and it's something that is just sort of a side note. They didn't make a huge deal out of it. I loved the dialogue that they used for that scene and how they had set it up earlier in the episode, and so we don't have to worry about this come into the next season, into the next half of the season. And I'm going to assume that wherever they got sent to, I'm going to assume Bernard's going to be leading the charge to help get them back. We'll have to see what happens. All right, everybody. Those are some thoughts and reactions to episode 5 and 6. Now I want to give these episodes a grade, and I'm just going to grade them all together because I grade them the same. I give both of these episodes together a C. I thought there were ups, I thought there were downs, positives and negatives, but overall, Titans just seems to have a hard time maintaining a consistent, tight story at a high level to get into that B range for me. There's just always something negative going on, or something that you can mark them down for that you don't like or enjoy. And so I think it's been a very average season so far. Hopefully the second half of the season picks up. Again, I don't know where I want everything to go. Now, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the recap and reaction. Please do me a favor and subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment below. And I'll see you next time on the Fandom Realm.